Hello, welcome back, dear students. Let's proceed on with our next session of occupational health hazards. We have completed 2 sessions on physical hazards and chemical hazards. Now we'll move on to biological, mechanical, and psychosocial hazards. Now we will be talking about the biological hazards. Now when we talk of biological hazards, we'll be talking about the biological agents. Now biological agents are there all around us, universal, it's ubiquitous. You cannot escape from them. And naturally it's going to be there in the workplace also. Now what are the different biological agents? We have viruses, bacteria, fungus, parasites, and many more, including some plant agents also. Now, what are the different viruses? We have viruses of common cold, influenza, measles, SARS virus, hantavirus, rabies, and the coronavirus, COVID-19. Now, WHO defined COVID-19 as the pandemic of the century. I'm sure you have all read that. It has originated in Wuhan in December 2019. It has spread like a wildfire through continents, killed more than 1 lakh of population already, and we are still counting. Bacteria. The different bacteria, fecal bacteria, streptococcus, MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, Salmonella, Shigella. These are all the common biological agents during the occupation, apart from the other surroundings. Now fungi, which is usually seen around the working places where there is a humidity and putrefying agents. The common parasites are hookworms, scabies, roundworm. And these biological hazards are mainly prevalent in the developing countries, resulting in higher risk by infective and parasitic agents at the place of work, because the people exposed to the like agricultural work, working in animal husbandry, animal products, they're all in the risk of zoonotic disease, worm infestation, tetanus, etc. Healthcare setting is another place high risk of hepatitis, tuberculosis, HIV, encephalitis, etc. Now, what are the routes of entry of these organisms into the body? It could be a damaged skin or a mucous membrane, or through inhalation of agents in the workplace, swallowing along with the food that we are eating in the workplace, animal bites, urogenital tract, needle stick injuries, stings and cuts. Needle stick injuries among healthcare workers, stings and cuts in people working in the fields, barefooted. Like I said, biological agents are everywhere in the environment and also in the occupational settings. The exposure of these agents occur whenever the workers are exposed to either the allergenic or toxic agents forming bioaerosols or agents causing zoonosis and other infectious diseases. Now, these toxic agents forming the bioaerosols can cause the diseases of the respiratory organ, causing airways inflammation, leading to toxic pneumonitis, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, asthma, and also conjunctivitis, dermatitis, etc. in the exposed workers. Now, let's see which are the workplaces with an increased potential for the exposure of these agents. The first is agriculture. Then comes food processing, wood processing, healthcare industry, biofuel power plants, waste treatment plants and places, research, etc. Now let's see which are the different occupations where a person gets contacted with an infected patient or blood. First is the dental worker, who would be handling the contaminated needles or surgical instrument. Embalmer, who embalms the dead bodies in the hospital or in the medical college anatomy department. Healthcare workers, they're all handling these contaminated needles and surgical instruments and are at a risk of contracting autoimmune disease virus. Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever virus, Ebola virus, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and so on. The healthcare workers caring for the sick patients through droplet and airborne pathogens, adenovirus, arenavirus infection, CCHF. Now, in the industrial sector, for example, the agricultural industries, veterinary services, they are all exposed to allergens like pollen, plant material, animal proteins from the urine, hair, and skin, mites, fungus, the bacteria like MRSA, E. coli, their cell wall constituents like endotoxin and glucans, which are toxogenic, zoonotic viruses, and so on. Healthcare hospitals, infectious agents including viruses, hepatitis, human immunodeficiency viruses, rubella, rabies, influenza, bacteria, fungi, parasites, and so on. The laboratories, where the samples come for investigation, there are infectious agents, and the laboratory technicians can be exposed to these agents. Food and beverage production and bakeries, fungi, bacteria, mites, mycotoxins, endotoxins, glucans, and allergens, including the plant and animal proteins. Forestry, again, bacteria, arthropod-borne virus infections, hantavirus, tick-borne encephalitis, parasites, and so on. Metal processing industry, where the metal working fluids are applied, collection of fluids are there, this bacteria, Pseudomonas, then molds, yeast grow in that fluid, leading to production of endotoxins. Wood processing, again, has bacteria, fungi growing and producing endotoxins. Waste collection, treatment, and sorting, again, bacteria grows and endotoxin and glucans liberated, and there are viruses, hepatitis A, B, bacteria, salmonella. Now, workplaces with air conditioning and high humidity, like textile industry and print industry and paper production, there's a lot of molds and yeast the people are exposed to. Then bacteria like Pseudomonas, again endotoxin and allergens. Museums, libraries, archives, where fungi and bacteria grow if it is not kept neatly and endotoxins are liberated. Now, in animal breeder, animal caretaker, or animal scientist, then laboratory animal worker, they are all exposed during the handling of infected animal caresses or placental tissues, and they are exposed to anthrax, brucellosis, Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, glanders, Nipah virus infection, leptospirosis, and so on. Now, all these biological hazards found in the workplace are due to exposure during sharing of the equipments, clothing, supplies, hand contacted with contaminated surfaces, blood, body fluid contact, food and waste handling, human handling, bug bites, plant and food allergies and poison, animal handling and or bites. So these are most of the industries and the workplaces. There is always a hazard of an exposure if proper protective measures are not carried out. Now let's move on with the next topic, that's mechanical hazards. Mechanical hazard, actually it is a physical hazard, but because it's an important topic, we are taking it in this also because it's due to the man handling a machine, and there can be many places where accidents could occur and injuries could occur. And the accidents are defined, a mechanical accident is defined as a mechanical hazard involving a machine or a process, essentially due to machine, components of the machine, moving parts of the machine, or any source which can injure a person. Even a compressed gas or liquids can also be considered a mechanical hazard because it could blast and could lead to an accident. Now these are the different mechanical work during which an accident or a hazard could occur. Could be during a cutting and tearing process, a shearing process, crushing, when a person is straining or spraining for carrying out a particular process, or puncturing. These are the common mechanical hazards that occur during many of the occupations. Now comes ergonomic hazards. Now, what do we mean by ergonomics? It's a science of designing of the workplace, keeping in mind the capabilities and limitations of the worker so that we can improve the efficiency of the worker and the performance of the worker. When does it occur? When there is an improperly adjusted workstations and chairs are not proper, there's a frequent lifting during their work, poor posture, awkward movements, especially if they are repetitive, repeating the same movements over and over again, having to use too much of force, especially if you have to do it frequently, vibration. And look at this picture. See, look at the way this boy is sitting in front of a computer with his head drooping down, drooping position of the spine, couching, and his leg folded. That's not the right position. Now look at this picture. Straight, the spine is straight, the neck is straight, the legs are straight. And this is a comfortable position where the person is able to work efficiently and bring about a better result. Now, which are the different areas of ergonomical problems? Look at these pictures. There's an office, there's a computer, a person is sitting in a corner. There's another lady sitting here where there's not much light. So equipment layout and operation is very important. Lifting, pushing, pulling, manual handling should be in a proper way. Now lighting. Look at this lady working with the light coming just from the front. Noise, systems and computer programs, the job and workplace design, workstation design and height. Look at this person standing in the middle of a road. Probably he's a policeman or a security person standing there for a long time in a straight position. So these are the areas which can lead to ergonomic problems, which causes musculoskeletal problems, which could definitely be avoided. Now comes the classification of psychological hazard. A person working with machine, with people, different people in different categories, seniors, juniors, colleagues, and working at different times of the day definitely is going to create some sort of a friction to the person, which can lead to psychological hazards, which brings about stress to a worker. And it can be to such an extent that their general well-being can be affected, and he can get into all tobacco habits, alcohol habits. The related stress could be due to probably excessive working time, overwork, could be due to the violence from outside the organization. It could be due to emotional or verbal abuse, sexual harassment, burnout syndrome due to continuous work, and many, many causes. These psychological hazards, the effects can be divided into two categories. It could be mainly psychological and behavioral changes, which could lead to hostility, aggressiveness, anxiety, depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, sickness, absenteeism. These are many changes that we see when that person is not able to cope up with the stress in his work. Or it could be psychosomatic ill health, which includes fatigue, headache, unexplained pain in the shoulder, neck, back, and a propensity to peptic ulcer, hypertension, heart disease, and rapid aging. All this definitely could be avoided or prevented with proper working conditions. So the different occupational hazards we have been talking about: physical, chemical, biological, mechanical, psychological hazards, we have completed. And in short, we can say that the result of interaction between man and the environment, may it be man, animal, microorganisms, or physical, chemical conditions, through accidental, avoidable, sometimes inevitable situations of exposure, if the interaction is negative, it results in health hazards. Let us try to prevent